And okay, so so that's all that's happened. Yes, and Shabbos in between. So Debbie was the one, I forgot already, or Arlene, brought up the fact that, and if you looked in the book, that Enkello in your Siddur, and Enkello is not actually the last prayer in the service, but that it was at one time, and that's the secret. And it also explains when Elena was added. And I'll do Elena afterwards, because that's actually the next prayer that we're going to do is Elena, so I'm not going to talk more about it. What I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to Ein Eloheinu just to review before we move on. And it's at 508 in the Siddur Sim Shalom, if you have that. And it's on 204, right, 204, if you have the Lev Shalem.
I have it.
You have this Sim Shalom.
This one here. Is this
you have this. Is that the?
Ein Eloheinu 182.
I can't hear you. You have this Slim Shalom.
Ein Eloheinu 182.
Okay.
Sim Shalom. Yeah, I have the one for Shabbat and festival.
Right, that's the Slim Shalom. There's the first Sim Shalom for Justin, and if you go to any other shul, any of you, anytime, the first Sim Shalom had everything in it. Weekdays and Shabbos and holidays. That was the first one. And the pocket one, which I have right here, actually has everything in it. Then they realized, especially when they made the large print, that it was a very heavy book to have everything in one book. Excuse me. So they separated it and they put Shabbat and holidays in one book and weekdays in another book. So that's what she has. And that one I don't have here. I could, because our shul uses it.
So
but anyway,
that one is 182 for the
okay.
for the new Sim Shalom. It's 182.
Great, 182. So any of those places.
That's not showing up in my book at 182.
What book do you have? Oh, you have Lev Shalem. Lev Shalem, it's in 204.
Thank you. I knew I didn't have it right.
Lev Shalem is 204. Just as a point of information, Lev Shalem, it's the name of the book, the newer one is Lev Shalem. Lev means heart, and Shalem is full. Like if you want a whole falafel, it's Shalem, as opposed to chetzi, which is half. So it can be in modern Hebrew, we're talking about a falafel, or when you're talking about davening and praying, hopefully you're davening with the full heart, and that's why it's called. I presume it's called Lev Shalem.
It's a wonderful prayer book.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Download it. Guess what happens? It goes from 158 to page 306 when you download it. It's screwed up in the Lev Shalem that I downloaded.
Oh, I don't know that. I know. I'm not responsible for that. Yeah, I like it a lot. I don't know how many of you have the Lev Shalem. Is also they have a Machzor, which is actually the first one they came out with was the Machzor. One of the things they learned, and this is just an aside, is they learned how to bind them much better. When they did the Eitz Chaim, they printed that, the Chumash, it was bound terribly. They
fell apart.
Falling apart. The Machzor and the Lev Shalem are beautifully bound, and the outside of the book just feels nice. I love the texture of it. And also they have a lot of, for any of you that have not seen it, there's a lot of commentary on it and a lot of explanations, and I find it meaningful. So if you ever can get your hands on a copy, if you're interested in something like that, I think it is a worthwhile addition to our number of Siddurim in the world. Okay. Okay, so either wherever you are, if you have Ein Eloheinu in your access, I'd like to just read it, and I want to know if anybody will be brave enough to start reading, or I'll read the first one because that will help a lot. I think since a lot of the words are the same in each verse. So I'm going to read it at first. Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kimalkenu, Ein Kamoshienu. There is none like our God. There is none like our master. Adon actually is master. Adonai is the master. Ein Kamalkenu, like our king, none like our king. Ein Kamoshienu, none like our deliverer, they use as the translation in this book. So, anybody want to? Thank you, Gail. Gail, then I ask that you have your real name here. Arlene, I see that. Who is that? Len Chib. Yes, your name is. I forgot.
Have to unmute, Munchie.
Yeah. You have to unmute. I don't think I can unmute you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm on my husband's computer. Marlene.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable, Marlene, changing the name and he can change it back?
Sure.
Okay, just so it just makes it easier for me anyway, so I don't get confused. Right, Gail?
It's all good.
Thanks, Lenny.
Mi
That's funny.
Kelohenu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kamalkenu, Mi Kamoshienu.
Good. Remember, and I'm just I'm only clarifying it for people that have questions. Remember, it is the ch, not the k. But it's not a big deal. I only say that because it's a class in reading Hebrew. If you're singing it, nobody will know the difference. If you're actually reading it, it means the same thing. But just because this is a class in Hebrew reading, I think it's important for you to at least know what the exact pronunciation is. Okay. Arlene.
Node Lelohenu, Node La Donenu, Node Le Malkenu, Node Le Moshienu.
Great. Okay, Marlene.
Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu.
Okay. Anybody else feel brave? Celia? Patty, I'm going to get you next time. Yep.
We're on Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Okay. Everybody's gonna try to read. You're not muted. Okay. Anybody want to? I'm gonna read it. I don't want to make anybody work too hard here. The last one, I don't exactly know. I have to read more about that. I forget why they added that one. But the last one is Atahu Shiktiru Avotenu Lefanecha et Ketoret Hasamim. So it sort of doesn't fit the pattern. And this is sung. Yes, Susie.
Would you repeat those, the third word again?
Oh, that's sort of a little hard, actually. This is one of the ones that sort of gets mumbled. She hik tiru. Can you say it? She tiru.
Yes, okay, She Iktiru.
Okay. Also, somebody had asked about vowels another time when we first were meeting. If there are any vowels that you don't understand, or when the awe we're going to get to, it isn't in this prayer. The O sound. We do Sephardic Hebrew, so that we say in here, where would it be? Let's see if it's anywhere in here. Oh, Baruch rather than Baruch.
Baruch. Mhm.
We say Baruch, and I presume you do that in all of your shuls. So that vowel is easy. But if we ever come across a letter, a vowel, a word that I'm not sure of, or need to be clarified, please ask. Any questions about Ein Kelohenu?
I just have one.
Sure.
You just one that says Atahu Shaktiru. Could you sing that one? I don't know how it all fits into that one. number.
Sure. Okay. Atahu Shektiru Avotenu Lifanechat Ketoret Hasamim.
Thank
I'm
you.
not a singer, but that's about how it goes.
I just
Yeah.
didn't know how that was gonna all fit in.
Yeah, it does fit in. Not as easily as the Don alum, but it does fit. I really have to figure out. I forgot to do that, to check why they added that one when everything else is so easy. Any other questions about this prayer? Yes, Arlene.
That last line, you think that
Yeah.
translation I have in my book is really literal? You are the one to whom our ancestors offered incense. Are those really those words?
Let me see.
Because Toret, what would be Toret on the end?
Correct. Awesome. Yeah, because red's the last. What's the last word? Let's go to that one.
Hasamim.
Okay, what do we do on an Havdalah? What's part of Havdalah?
Oh,
Incense.
Yeah, the fragrance.
Anybody?
Fragrances.
Spices.
Fragrance, spices.
Bisamim. We have
Bisamim.
bisamim.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank
Okay, you can stay there. Oops.
And that's what I like about this book, is it does things like that. So now you say, oh my goodness, I'm reading about that, and I know what that means. It's from the same word. So yes, it is a translation. You will find, I'm gonna get to it more in 1 second. I do find there are a number of Nina. Yes,
That's me.
there are a number of places, including in Lev Shalem, where it is not a translation, and I actually find that offensive. I don't mind that I think it's nice to have the things on the sides, but to me, especially if people are trying to sort of figure it out, it's much more helpful if it's really a translation of the Hebrew. But some prayers are more so. This is pretty much, yes. Anything else? Yes, Marlene.
The actual last phrase of the last line, I obviously learned it wrong a long time ago, but it sounds like it's Rush. Is there any variation in that the Fanecha?
Well, there are several different tunes for Ein Eloheinu itself.
No, not the
There's
tune,
the one,
but the timing of that closing phrase.
it just depends on the tune, how you need to fit it in.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's depending on what the tune is that you're using, you have to fit it in.
Okay, cool.
But the words are the same, but that would be the difference, is fitting it in.
Thanks.
Yeah. Has anybody heard it in Ladino? It's very cool. If you ever get a chance, it's very cool in Ladino. Yeah, I've heard that too, which is fun.
My kids.
Anyway, okay. So anything else on Ein Eloheinu? I don't want to beat a dead horse.
One thing.
Yes, Eileen, no rush. Yes.
Okay, in the Ein Eloheinu, it says Hasamim. When we do the Havdalah, it's Besamim.
Bisamim. It's just a different form. Remember, we talked about there are different forms of the same word. We have the root, and there are different forms. So it's a different form, but the root is the same.
Okay, so the ha is the, but what would the bu be?
I think it's just it's a different form of the word. I'm not even sure it's really
Okay.
Maybe with spices. It could be with spices. I'm trying to think of the prayer. So be could be with.
Right, like shalom with, you're doing your.
That's what I said. It could be. There. Some of the vowels have different sounds. I mean, different meanings. The can mean but or and, which is very different. There are it makes it a little tricky. So that's why it is nice actually to have the English on the other side. I try not to look at that, when you're trying to practice reading, but it is nice to have the English on the other side. It gives you the idea usually anyway. Anything else? Okay. So just one, we're going to skip next. We're going to go to the next thing, but I just want to go over because it will presume you know these things. I'm going to presume you know these things. We know that Ein is there is none or none. Mm-hmm. That me is who. Mm-hmm. No de is thank you, thanks. Baruch is blessed. Atahu is you, and Eloheinu is our God. Adonenu is our Lord. Malkeinu is our King. From Elohim, Adonai, Melech, and Kamoshienu from Mashiach, our Savior, or what do they call it here? A deliverer. Okay, so we learned all those words already. Okay, now the next thing is Aleinu. Now I know what page it is. Does anybody look at, if you have a Siddur, do you know what page it is?
205.
Yeah, it's the next page, very next page. Wherever you are in your Siddur, it's the next page. I had a Hebrew school teacher that I loved for one thing in particular. She told me that the Aleinu was her favorite prayer. And then and the reason I liked her is it was why she thought the Aleinu was her favorite prayer. The reason she thought it was her favorite prayer is it means the service is almost over. But whatever service you are, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, whether it's holiday or weekday or Shabbos, it's always near the end of the service. So you know that it's almost over. It is a prayer that we all sing, depending on where you are and what day of the week it is. You may sing more or less. It gets a little bit controversial, actually. It's very chauvinistic to the Jewish people. But it is a nice prayer to know, and we because it's something. I guess part of it is we're concentrating on things that we do out loud also, because when you do silently, it doesn't matter if you do Hebrew or English. When you do out loud, it's nice to be able to join the congregation, and particularly when you're singing. So those are the prayers that that this book actually emphasizes, is the ones that we sing. Okay. So anybody that looked at the chapter or whatever, and I don't think you have to have. You don't give any demerits if you haven't. But anybody have any questions about the Aleinu or about the Aleinu in general before you've even read it, just in general about the prayer? Nope. Okay. So anyway, it is divided into two parts, the first paragraph and the second paragraph. And it, what can I say? So we will look at it, and we'll also we will recognize some of the words also, because they're part of what we did before. And that's why I said it's nice to know. Okay. Does anybody want to read the first 4 words?
I'll do it.
Great, Eileen. Then Patty, then Celia.
Aleinu l'shem Adon HaKol.
Okay. Does anybody know the difference between the shin and the sin?
Yes.
Shin and sin.
The location
What?
of the dots.
Okay.
The location of the dots.
Correct. And I have a trick, and I don't know if anybody else needs it. I needed it at one point to know which was which. I used to actually just look at a word I knew, and that's how I figured it out. But then somebody told me that left is sinister. And I am a left-handed person, I want to tell you. So the left dot is the sin and has the S sound, and the right dot has the sh sound. Just a trick to help us know which is which, and that's exactly right. And Aleinu, we should put al is on, and remember we talked about prefixes and suffixes. So it's us. So we're talking in the first person plural. A lot of the prayers are in the first person plural. Obviously, we're praying, but we don't pray only for ourselves or by ourselves. We pray for the Jewish community. So, I like that. That's a cute one, Arlene. A sin is never right. I like that. Good for you. So it's the first person plural. L'shabeach. I'm not going to do all the words. We're not going to do all the words of any of them. The only reason we did the Alein and Nekel because there's so few words and they're all important words. But Adon, I'd like you to know that Adon in this prayer is like what did we read in the Ein Keloheinu? Anybody? Exactly, Adonenu, exactly. Thank you. So this is just Lord, or it's Lord, so that but when you see it now, you can sort of, it clicks what you're singing about, and you don't have to know every word, and we're not going to do every word, and I don't expect anybody to know every word, but just when you see it, you can see what is. And just for people, kol is all. It's in one of those other words that you see a lot, and if you've ever had any Hebrew, you know what kol is, and because you talk about that all the time. So just another familiar word. Anybody else want the next 4 words? Marlene, then Celia.
La Tefidullah Leotzer Breshit.
Exactly, fabulous. Okay, for anybody that's old like me and or has Orthodox relatives, we read the second letter and the third letter of that 5th word as a T sound, not an S sound. When we first learned Hebrew, we learned Ashkenazic Hebrew, and Ashkenazic Hebrew will pronounce that as an S. Sephardic Hebrew, which we started when we started getting Israeli teachers, and they use the Sephardic Hebrew. So it has whether it has a dot or doesn't have the dot, because we talked about that in the very beginning, I think a little bit, with this letter, whether it has that or it doesn't have a dot, it's the same pronunciation, the T pronunciation. Okay, and the little thing that looks under the lamed, the L sound, has an ah sound. That's another difference between the Ashkenazic and Sephardic Hebrew. And I'm only saying this because you, especially if you go to a different shul, or I don't know what your shuls are, you're going to hear it different. And the reason you're going to may hear it differently is because they do Ashkenazic Hebrew, and they will read that as an ah. But we read it as a soft A. Okay, so just so you know, because I know I go on the Makom Biachad at 12 o'clock, and I go on 11:30, but that's another story. But we do the mourner's Kaddish at the end, and some people that do the Ashkenazic Hebrew, and some people do the Sephardic Hebrew, and you can hear the difference. It's not that they're doing it wrong, either one of them. It's just a different system. So just so you know,
Can you say both of them?
Which
Can you say both of them the different ways out loud?
Aw or ah, Baruch or Baruch. Soft day. We usually in Sephardic Hebrew it's a soft day. Yes, Patty.
Judi, I hate to interrupt. I have to leave. I'm hosting my son's wedding reception in my backyard in 4 hours.
Oh my!
So
my goodness! Oh my goodness!
So I thank you, but I've got a bunch of people here, and they're helping.
Please go, Patty. But before you go, I did see that it was the last class. I didn't look at it because I didn't have a chance, but it was posted. So if you'd like to look at the rest of the class sometime before next week, please feel free. It is on Women's League YouTube. That's where I found it. It was easy. You just go to you go to YouTube, Women's League for Conservative Judaism, and then it'll be there. But Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov.
Terrific. Lovely. Enjoy. We'll hear next week. I look forward to hearing about it.
I'll be here.
Great wedding.
Thank you very much.
Lots of joy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you.
That's the best excuse for leaving class early. I want to have that.
I can't think of a better one other than having a baby. That's the only other one.
Unfortunately, many of us are beyond that point.
That's why.
Yeah, but we might have children who are just getting
That's
to that.
That's true. That's a possibility.
In my case, I would like for them to be married before they have the child, if possible.
I would settle for one of my kids getting married.
You guys are
Yeah.
young. You guys are
Yeah,
young.
it's an ideal, but you know, this day and age, you never know. I have a friend whose daughter wanted to be married, wanted to have children, didn't find the man that she wanted to marry, and she has 2 children now.
Good for her.
That's great.
Because and she did it through sperm donation, but you know, you never know these days. But anyway, so yeah, that was a great reason to go, and I certainly understand. Yeah. Anyway, so that's I'm doing. Somebody had brought up about the vows, so that's why I'm trying to explain a little bit about the vows. And if you have any questions, any of you, that's why I didn't mute you altogether. Please feel free if there's any question. Okay. So you can hear what the vowels are by how we're reading, and that's why I corrected that one thing, is just so that you're really aware how the exact pronunciation is supposed to be. Whether you do it exactly, it's not the end of the world, but just so you know, are aware of how it should be. Okay, so I'm just going to read what we read so far, and then I'm going to get a new volunteer. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula le'yotzer breshit. Okay, but the reading so far, you guys have been terrific. I know that the ones maybe that are feel more confident are the brave ones volunteering, and everybody else should be able to volunteer too. And if you have trouble, please, that way we can help you too. So please.
I have no way to raise my hand because I'm using an iPad and
Okay,
I
talk.
don't see.
You could just talk. That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't mute you, because you can just talk. Okay, you want to read the next words?
Okay, I'll try.
Good.
Shelo Asanu
Good.
Kogoye
Exactly.
Ratsot.
Good.
Keep going.
If you want, 2 more. How about 2 more?
Samanu.
Okay. Read to the comma. Go crazy.
Kimish Chot.
Good. Perfect.
Ha'adama.
Good. Perfect. Perfect. You can stop there. Great. 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 Okay. I love it. Okay. Kimishpachot. Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Family.
Family,
Yeah.
mishpacha.
Exactly. I love it. Yes, exactly. It's in there. It's in there. Thank you. Good. There's nobody like us. That's basically the story. Okay. So who wants to do the next one? But that was perfect. And you know what? The more you do it, the more quickly. Now you're sounding out still some of the words. Some we know by just looking at them. But thank you for being brave and doing it. Yes, Nina. You want to volunteer to read, or you have a question?
No, I'll read it. But I
Good.
gotta sing it. Shalo, Sam, Halkenu, Kahem, Virgo. Yes, that's it.
Yes.
I did that.
Yes. Keep going
To
the period.
Wait a minute. Shalo, Sam, Halkenu, Kahem, Virgo, Love. See, this is where I get stuck.
2 dots are an A sound.
Wait a minute.
The Gora Lenu. Good. Good. Okay. And that's why I also said but when you can stop now because that's period.
Right.
To look when you're reading, because the Anu is the sound that we just had all through in Kelohenu. And that's why I said when you're reading it or singing it, and you sing it in shul, you should look at what it looks like, because you know it. But if you look what it looks like, when you see it in here and it's Goralenu, you're going to see the same thing. So that's why if you really look at it when you're reading or singing, it helps for reading or singing words that you might not be as familiar with.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing.
Was that Lekenu? Which word was that? Was that Lekenu, or that was just?
It was all the words in Kelohenu. It was Kelohenu, Moshienu, Adonenu. The ends of all of those words was the enu ending.
Judy, could you do the whole thing? Do what we've done.
I'm gonna sing it because it is a lot easier for me to sing. If you want, I will read it also. Eloheinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol la'tet gedula liotzer reshit shelo asanu gagoye ha'artzot v'lo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama shelo sam Hakenu kahem v'goralenu kachol hamonam. Any questions, comments, criticisms besides my voice that I can't change? Okay, and you'll notice the tune. It's tricky because when you get to the song Chalkenu, it's the same as when you bend your knee. So, but you don't bend yet. But it's the same tune as when you get to the next one. Okay. So I like that we know that we're praying for us in this prayer because of that new ending, the enu ending on a lot of the words. We're praying for us. So, and about us. Okay, somebody else. Okay, Celia, did you volunteer? And then Jane. Celia?
We're on 4.
Anachnu.
Vanaknu Korim Umistakarim or Odim.
Good. You want to stop or you want to go? You can stop there if you want.
Lifnei Melach Malahe HaMalchim HaKadosh Borahu.
Perfect. Fabulous. 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 So again,
What does the nachnu mean? Va'anachnu. What
We
does
or
anach
us.
mean?
We or us. Ani is I or me, and anachnu is we or us.
So the va in front of it, does that mean and
It's a
us?
prefix. It means and or but or whatever. It's a oh my God, what's that word? Oh my God.
A conjunctive. A conjunction.
Thank you.
A conjunction.
Thank
I have to
you.
think of
Yes.
it in English.
Yes, a conjunction. Conjunction. Yes, it's a conjunction. It's a prefix to the word. And so we have modim. Does that sound like we talked about? It sounds a little bit. It's a little tricky because it's not exactly, but it is also another way of thank you. Modim. And melech we did already, right? Melech is king. Exactly right. Good. And this is how you could sort of see the way it fits. Melech Malchei HaMalachim. And if you look in the English, let's see what it says. Yes, the King of Kings, because it's the King of the King of the Kings. Because it's the Melech again and again, 3 times that same root. So it's the King of the King of the Kings. And another way that we also refer to God as HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the blessed one.
Judy, even though in the English it says Supreme Sovereign Holy One. I mean, those are just all other words for king.
Because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is another way of saying that. Yeah, that's why it's not exactly important to know each word anyway, but it's if you know what you're referring to and the image that you're supposed to be getting when you read the words, I think that helps too a little bit. Yes, anything else? Anybody else? Celia has her hand up, but I don't know if she knows why. Okay, you do have your hand up, I think. Oh no, that's my cursor. Looks like a hand. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes it looks like a carrot and sometimes it looks like a cursor, a hand. Okay, so we have that, and now we're going to get to the part that. Oh no, we read it. Okay, right. Va'anachnu, right, is us. Korim, u'mishtachavim. Okay, this is where we bend our knee. Korim and us, and we bend. Korim, Umishtachavim and Arni, and give thanks to the King of Kings. Okay, when you see people bow down. Some people come up at Modim, some people come up at Lifnei, whatever you like, or your shul does. Anyway, that's it. Okay. So if we can, I'm going to ask actually everybody, if you can, to mute yourselves and sing with me. Because I don't think we can sing together. I wish we could. But if you are singing, make an effort to try and sing. And I'm going to sing slowly. It's hard to sing too slowly. And even you will find if you sing too slowly, you sort of lose the tune. But if you can sing a little slow, I'll try to sing slowly so that everybody can actually sing with me. I wish we could sing. If we were in person, I'd have everybody not muted and singing. But if you've ever tried to sing on Zoom with more than 2 people, you'll know why why I asked you to mute. Eloheinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'tet gedula l'yotzer breshit shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam elkeinu kahem V'goralenu kechol hamonam va'anachnu korim umishachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. So and now you can unmute yourself. How do you feel about that? Anybody?
I just noticed there's a difference in the sounding of the tune. I think we just say it a little differently. Like
it's very possible. And that's why it's better in a way. It's better to read, but it's easier to sing. So yes, they're not. None of these tunes are Misinai. Even the Torah tropes, which we know. There are tropes, that notes for the different in the Torah reading, but there are different systems of Torah trope where one trope sounds a different way in one system than another one. So it's not. When we say Misinai, which we mean forever and ever, and this is the only one. There are none. There are common ones. I was talking to Nina earlier. We were at Deshran in Elkins Park for a year. They not only have their own siddur, but they start out and you think they're doing the same tune, but then they do something a little different. Yeah. So yes, it will be different. The tunes are not. I'm not here to teach you the tune, just because it's a little easier for me to sing it than to read it. So, and also for most people to have that as the tune, I think every place most of the places I've been, that's pretty standard. Not universal, but standard. Yes, Marlene.
Well, I think we're moving ahead, but I didn't want to cut anybody off. But why does everybody start to double the pace? I actually was asked to lead Aleinu online, before we opened up for the pandemic. And of course I'm learning it and slowly, and then all of a sudden it's like the horse race is on for the next part and everybody's going at double time. And I don't know if it's because in the beginning, you're getting everybody up and it's a song of praise and it's at the end of the service, but all of a sudden it's like, who knows? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I really felt like I wanted to have a bet on that horse on who was going to finish, and I was allegedly the leader. And so I was just wondering, as the wife of a rabbi and somebody who's been davening longer than me, you could explain this increased speed thing.
I think it's just the way it is, and because the first part you'll find that people sing aloud a lot in the service, whereas the next part after this, what we just did, you only do on Shabbos and Yom Tov. You don't do it like a morning minyan, and so it's part of the festivity. Plus the fact that it's a longer service, you want to get out of there. Who knows? And it's also. It's sort of festive at the end. So people, yes, you're right. But,
especially if we're all learning this and eventually somebody will ask us in person or online to do this, and we think that we're holding our own. Of course, if I've learned Hebrew as an adult, in my 40s and 50s.
Well, you just have to be a little, louder so that they have to follow you.
Right.
That's the secret.
Because-
If you
because
can be
we have the
louder.
mic. We have the mic and they don't.
Exactly. And make them follow you. That would be my
Good
suggestion.
advice. Good advice.
Yeah.
Judy, don't
Yeah.
they do abbreviated Elenu sometimes? Like it's sometimes you don't do the, the end part. Like they don't.
As far as I know, I've never been anywhere. Usually, sometimes the next part I said, well, done it loud, sometimes silently, but usually then you do everything silently and you come in at the end and out loud.
Why
And
do
some
they-
people might do faster than others, and some people may not do all of it, but usually you're expected to read the rest of it silently
Yeah, but why? Isn't there like
to the end.
like
Why
it's-
don't you do it out loud? Is that the
Yeah,
question?
like the who to say Shemayim part, the next big part. Like,
Yeah.
I've been places where the rabbis would say, "Oh, we read that silently," and then we go on. Maybe it's like because it's so. This is
Oh, no, because it really is the thing. Because it's festive. You do it on Shabbos and Yom Tov, and usually do not do it at a weekday minyan.
Yeah.
Or that's yes, Marlene.
Unless she's referring to the Alkane at the end
Well,
of
that's the
Elena
other thing,
before the
too.
Amar.
Oh, that's another one.
That's
That's
another
another one.
one.
If you're in USY, if you ever had a USY group there, you could do Alkane and you go up and down and whatever.
I was just
That's
wondering if
usually-
that's what she had, because our new rabbi tried instituting Alkane in our service, and it was not met very lovingly and warm with a lot of joy. So now it's done silently. So for those of us who are attempting to lead Elena, whether it was on Zoom or whatever, now we know we take our eyeball cues from the rabbis, and
I
then
like
we
it.
go, eventually
Yeah.
we have to get into V'nai Amar. So that's another thing.
Yeah,
think
I
that
would
people might
never, honestly, if I'm teaching Hebrew, unless it's just because I want to teach Hebrew and we want to learn the words, I would never teach that.
Okay,
Because
good.
it's usually not down out loud. That we usually come in, and for people that are another hint is we talked about especially when you're first learning Hebrew, one of the things is if you get lost a little bit, how do you find your way? So one of the things we had talked about is if you hear a word that you really know how it is, you look for that word in the paragraph. The other thing is that usually if somebody's starting something, it's either at the beginning, and if they're ending, in the books that we have, there's a little box, and it's usually that's where they after a silent reading, they go to the box. And sometimes there might be a few words before. It depends on the shul, it depends on the prayer, but it's somewhere near the end, near the box, so you can find your way, which is not a bad thing. Yeah. So the rest is usually done silently until you get to the very end, and that we should know. I don't know if you want to do that, Moshe. Yeah, let's do the part that we do on Shabbos, because we're talking about mostly going on Shabbos anyway. Let's see. All right. Well, let's go to the end, and then maybe we'll go back to the middle, or we won't, depending on what time. The end is. Anybody want to volunteer? Arlene?
What line are we on? I'm sorry.
We're a guy. If you look, there should be a box. It's on the next to the last line of the prayer. Right? It's in. That's where it is here. Let's see. It's on page 510. If you have the whole Sim Shalom in the Lev Shalem, it's on 206. Okay, I'll tell you. All right, so this is tricky. This is now we have to get to it. If you look in the Sim Shalom, the box is at V'nai Amar. If you look at the Lev Shalem, it's at Kakatuv.
Okay, I don't see a box, but I see
There's a carrot.
pointing.
There's a carrot. Yes, there's an arrow. In Lev Shalem, there's an arrow. There's a box in Sim Shalom. It designates it, whatever it is. In other books, it might be something else. Okay, so it is different. Yeah, start with Kakatuv, since it's on that one.
I don't know. Imloch leolam vayed.
Good. Okay. No, stop. I'm going to give somebody else a chance. But Torah Techa, does anything sound familiar in that? We're talking about roots.
Torah.
Yes, good. No, that's important. I'm telling you, if you know you're reading about your Torah, because the
Right.
Cha ending is you. You're reading about your Torah. You're talking to God. To me, I don't need to know every word, but I like that I know that I'm talking to God and it's his Torah or her Torah, whichever one you want to say. Okay. And it's written kakatuv in your Torah. Okay. Somebody else. Somebody that's not so brave, because these aren't so hard.
I don't even know where
Debbie,
we are.
you want to be brave?
No, because I don't know where we are.
Okay. We're at, if you look towards the end of the prayer, which book are you using?
Prayer.
Which book are you using?
I see a little box, a blank box, square.
Yes. Yeah. So you're using Sim Shalom.
I'm so lost, Judy. I am so lost in this class.
No, but no. We can stop. We have
I'll
time.
just follow along and I'll practice. This is
Okay. But we have time. There's no reason. There's no one that couldn't benefit from more help here, including me. So please don't feel afraid and don't be.
I'm not afraid. I'm just completely lost. This is
okay. If you're in the Sim Shalom, because that's the tricky one.
Don't worry about it.
No, I'm talking to everybody else. I'm not talking to you anymore, Debbie. I'm talking to everybody else. If you're in the Sim Shalom, it's not where the box is. It's before. It's the line above. Where it says kakatuv. Okay. Does anybody else not see it? Please ask for help if you don't know. In the Lev Shalem, if there's a red carrot, arrow, whatever it is. But in the
please.
But in the Sim Shalom, it's the line above it. Okay. Where after the comma or period, it should be a period. It's weird. It's a period. That's a different thing, like each.
I can't believe it.
Debbie, I can mute her. Can I mute her? I can mute her. I muted her. I can mute her. I'm the host. I can mute her. Okay.
You unmuted her.
I'm sorry.
It's interesting because she unmuted herself.
Yeah.
I muted her. She unmuted herself. It's very interesting, and that's why I said. Nothing is Misinai. Nothing is written in stone. In the Lev Shalem, where it starts kakatuv, before that there's a period, and so it makes sense for them to start at that carrot. In the Sim Shalom, there is actually a comma, so they don't start there. They start after the period, where is la alam va'ed. So there are differences, and that's why when we are learning, we think we don't know it, and everybody else knows, and it's one way, and I don't know it. There are many different things, and so it's all learning, and it's not all going to be the same, and it's not going to be exact. So yeah, but I would like so anyway. I'm going back to if anybody has the Lev Shalem, it's where the carrot is, and actually in the Lev Shalem it's easy because there's actually a space. And between that and the paragraph and the part before it, they make it very easy. In our book, it would be in the Sim Shalom, it would be the line above, and it starts with kakatuv. Anybody want to be brave? Somebody that hasn't read before. Today, okay, Lynette.
Kakatuv, the Torah, the yachts.
No, read it again. Kakatuv and look again.
Kakatuv, B'Torato.
No. Either you're in the wrong place or you're not reading it correctly. I'm not sure which.
I'm online. I don't have a Siddur with me.
Torah Techa.
Torah Techa.
Kakatuv.
Wait.
The Torah Techa.
Judy.
Yes.
I have this one.
Yes.
And in my book, there's no caret or any marking or any period between it. And it also.
You're on page 20. You're on page 206.
No, I'm on page 205.
206, Susie.
Yeah, 206.
In the bottom, there's
you didn't get to the end of the prayer. And the tricky part is, that's probably what Debbie's problem was. Debbie, see, that's why you need to speak up and not be afraid. In the Sim Shalom, it's all on one page. In the Lev Shalem, it's on 2 pages.
Okay. That's the difference. Thank you.
So I knew what it was and I didn't even think about it. And I apologize. And that's why it's important, Susie and Debbie and everybody else, to open your mouth if you have a question, because you're not the only one. Somebody else might have the same question and be in the same problem. Okay. So it's on the next page. Sorry, I apologize. It is on the next page. Now you can see it. Now you see it?
I do. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, great. That makes it much easier if you're on the right page. I'm
It
glad I
does.
asked. Okay, so it's Kakatu B'Toratecha. Yes, it's up. Keep reading.
Yad Hata Hayom.
No, you're really in the wrong place, and that's why it's
You know
important.
what? Skip me because I don't have
Okay,
this.
but that's why, no, but I want to make sure, because it's the same problem as Debbie, who didn't want to tell anybody. If you're in the Sim Shalom, and I assume it looks the same way. You're 1, 2, 3 lines from the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
The bottom of the Hebrew, there's English above, below it. And there's a comma. It says Timloch Bakavod, and there's a comma, and it says, and I'm going to read this, and then it says Kakatuv B'Toratecha. In the other book, that it would have been easier if it was the same. There's a caret, there's a blank space line, and then there's a caret, and it says Kakatuv B'Toratecha. Okay, and then there's a colon, because it's as it's written in your Torah. This is a quote, as it's written in your Torah. Okay, so it's Kakatuv B'Toratecha with a colon, and then in both books, it has Yud Hey Vav Hey without any vowels,
So it's
which we know is Adonai, exactly right. Because does anybody know how they got? I think this is how they got Yahweh. If you put the vowels that they usually have under an Adonai and read it with the letters, that's exactly how it sounds. Because the Vav can be a V or a W. So the vowels that they usually put under an Adonai are Adonai, but the letters are not. So here in these two Sidurim, they don't put any vowels. They just know. When we talked about, you see a word, you see Shalom. So when you see Yud Hey Vav Hey, you know it's Adonai. Okay. So Adonai, is somebody reading? I don't know if I interrupted somebody.
Adonai Hu Elohim. V'Shaim. The Ma'al.
Yes.
Ba'al. Haaretz. Mitahat.
Ein Od. Okay, you're reading at just as a point of information. That's good to know because we sing that sometimes also. That's the first paragraph. We talked about there's 2 parts to the Aleinu. That was the first paragraph, but there's also a second paragraph. So sometimes we do sing that part that you just read. Thank you very much. And sometimes we don't. So depending on the day and depending on the synagogue. But then the next part usually is silent until you get to the bottom of that second paragraph. And somebody else, Adonai Imloch. Jane. Didn't we have this with Jane last time? Did we have this with Jane last time? I can't hear.
I didn't hear it either.
Can't hear her.
I don't know what it
Try
is, Jane.
again.
Do you ever have the problem with anybody on any other Zoom? Do you have the problem?
Is she speaking now? I can't hear her.
Yes, she was. You were reading, weren't you, Jane?
Yes. I don't know.
Now I can hear you.
Now
Try
I can
again.
hear you.
Now I can hear. Try again.
Okay. Let's see. Adonai Leolam.
No, Adonai Yimloch. If you're in the wrong place.
Adonai
Yimloch.
Adonai Limlo Elo Hela Haaretz.
All right, we're gonna have to. I may have to share the screen because Debbie, you're not the only one. She's also in the wrong place. So yeah. So I may have to share the screen next time. We'll see. I may have to figure out how to do that.
ha Adonai yimlo el aharetz o shamim ad hanu. I got it all wrong.
No, I'm in the wrong place, or somebody else is in the wrong place. I'm not sure where.
Well, she's reading
and
from the right paragraph, Judy. It
I'm
just,
trying to figure out where she is.
She was like the
looking.
second
Bottom of
from
page 206.
Kaka 2, and you finished that with Ed, and then she started after Vanette Amar.
It's Vanette Amar. I'm gonna read this one because we're getting towards the end of the class, and I don't want to make this hard for anybody. I want it to be easier. I just want to read the last part that we were doing. I'm gonna read it, and we'll go back to it, and then I'm gonna may share the screen, and we'll figure out how to do it next time. Okay, or I'll go to the book. Kakatuv b'Torah Tacha, as it's written in your Torah. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'ne'amar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz. Hayom hahu yehyeh Adonai echad ushmo echad. Okay, so we're gonna end here.